Hello, and this is Crossing the Color Line.
Don't talk like
Our I have my first critic right here. And you notice I got my Halloween outfit on already, just, you know. And I want to introduce this just by the title today. It's called Who is the Prototypical American? And I want you to give us comments on this, please. And if Letha's performance the last couple of times doesn't get someone going, you know, I mean, she laid it out there. And so we need you to like us and subscribe to us. That's important. Comments would be very welcome. We just finished a few minutes of watching an interview with Ta-Nehisi Coates on C-SPAN. So it's T-A-N-A-H-I, S-I, first name. Last name Coates, C-O-A-T-E-S. Terrific stuff, man. Terrific
really good.
Stuff, yeah.
Really good.
So I'm going to see what Letha has for us today.
You know, I'm kind of psyched after watching him because I feel like people often tell me that I'm so direct with white people, and my feeling is kind of like Ta-Nehisi Coates. Well, it is. I come from where I come from, and we've been dealing with racism ever since this country's inception. And here we are in 2017, and people are finding, like I've said for a long time, that we haven't moved very far. All you have to do is look at Trump and his racism. But as Pat said, last week I talked about how white people like to be in the majority. And that's what this is all about with Trump and people feeling like take our country back and blah, 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 blah. Well, you know, I've been here since before many, many, many of your ancestors were here. But I was just, you know, just listening to him, I was like, see, I was right all along, because if we're not going to be honest about racism and call it what it is, then we're going to be here, unless, of course, Trump pushes the red button, and none of us will be here. and maybe that's what he's after, you know, is that he's going to push the button and all of this is forgotten, you know, because none of us will be here. But as I said last week, we talked about how whites do not want to be the only one in a group of minorities. And let me go back and say some whites. I'm going to say many whites, because I've dealt with them. Pat has dealt with them. If you ask them to go to an all-black function,
By the way, I am one of them. Clarify.
and they will say, "Oh, am I going to be the only one there?" And you know, and I'm thinking, I'm the only one on my job. I'm the only one in many, many, many places that I go. And so are African Americans and Hispanics. Because that's what desegregation did to us. And desegregation also, in my opinion, gave white people the idea that we are superior to you because you are coming over in our area. And I think I mentioned one time that Dr. Warren, who was a very well-known professor over at ASU, and in his later years, he said one of the worst things that African Americans did was to desegregate, because we lost our communities, and that's a lot of what's happening with our kids today, is they have lost, we have lost a lot of the community. And back to whites being afraid to be the only ones at minority functions. The mindset is, it's all right for you to be the only one, but it's not all right for me to be the only one. Now just think about that for a minute, because that is the mindset, in my opinion, of a lot of white people. And I think Pat will talk about that too. Because we thought, and I'm going to speak for me, I thought when I was hired in the Phoenix Union system that there would be other minorities there. And I was fortunate in the Phoenix Union system, there were other minorities there. But we were by no means the majority. Now the Phoenix Union system, high school system, is majority minority. So there is more of that going on. But again, when I moved to Tempe, I thought I had died and gone to hell. Because it was like the white people here in the East Valley at Marcus Sinisa, where I worked, they had not seen white people, and they went around telling
people or black people?
They had not seen black people.
Okay.
Well, that's what I felt like they said. They thought I dropped out of the sky somewhere. Because I'd come from a system where I was told that I was to be a change agent, so that's what I was trying to do. And what I got from that was that you only work with black kids. Now, there were only 25 black kids there when I was there. And I said, well, if I'm only working with black kids, and I'm not the fool, then you are if you paying me to work only with white kids. But that is the mind with black kids. That is the mindset of many, many white people, many of whom voted for Trump, is this is a white world, and you need to fit into it. And if you don't, then we're going to come down on you. And they're coming down on the minorities, because Trump is certainly trying to turn everything around that Barack Obama did. And the poor white people who voted for him, the southern states, the red states, they voted for him, and he doesn't give a damn about you either. All he wants to do is because he hates Barack Obama so much, he just wants to do anything to get rid of the good things that Barack Obama did for the red states and all of that. And one of the things Pat and I were talking about, this was years ago, and I don't know if this statistic is still correct, but whites can only tolerate, this is in a community, whites can only tolerate about 7% of minorities moving into, quote unquote, their community. About 7%. After that 7%, white begins to move out, because then there are too many minorities, too many blacks, too many Mexicans, too many Muslims, too many this, too many that, because whites are still very, very, very uncomfortable being the only one or even a few. But it's all right in your mindset, in many white mindsets, that's the way it's supposed to be. It's always been like that. That's why we want our country back. So with that, Pat is going to tell the story about this teacher one of them was talking to me, and listen to what she said. It's incredulous.
Incredible.
Incredible? Not incredulous?
No, incredulous is like, well, never mind.
Okay.
Anyway, let me go on. Yeah, something we don't talk about is I'm a language fanatic, and we never talk about language here. Okay, well, anyway. This idea that the default person, the default American, is white, is deeply entrenched. And there's a wonderful story. I went to a conference of foreign language teachers, by the way, and this one teacher, a white lady, got up and she talked about her experience that really opened her mind up, where she had worked in her school teaching what are called AP class, advanced foreign language classes in French. And there were some black students that were really good in their classes, but they weren't signing up for AP. So she worked at them, trying to get them to sign up for AP, and she just didn't understand why these black kids didn't want to go into these advanced classes. They were perfectly capable of doing the work. Well, she worked so hard at it that some local black organization decided to give her an award. And they told her, show up at this site, and you'll be part of the deal, and you'll go up on stage, and they'll present you with your award, and blah, blah, blah. And she said, oh, how nice. Then she began thinking, oh, it is a black organization. I'll be the only white person there.
Now she could have brought her family.
And she kind of panicked. And she went ahead with the thing, and it was fine, of course. But when she panicked like that, she thought, wait a minute. That's exactly what I'm asking my black students to do. To go into an all-white class where there may even be some hostility toward them. Like, what are you doing here? This isn't for you and your kind, and whatever attitudes, That's what she was asking these kids to do. And she said, wow, if I feel that way, what's a 15-year-old going to feel like, right? So I need to be more understanding that these kids need a more cushioned environment if they're going to expose themselves to these kinds of things. So this idea that whites are... oh my goodness.
You should turn that phone.
Yeah, it's Scotty again. Hey, Scotty, I'm sorry. Can you give us about an hour? Okay, thanks. Bye-bye. I didn't say it right. I'm sorry for that. The mayor, a lot of this stuff is accessed through what we call dog whistle comments. Okay? Dog whistles. A dog whistle, of course, is a whistle that only a dog can hear. And it's used in politics to refer to those comments that a politician will make that pass by most everyone else. They don't even notice it. But this target audience that he's aiming at, they hear it, and they understand what he means by it. And this is typically invoked when we talk about racialized politics, okay? Here's what Trump said in a tweet during the disaster that hit Puerto Rico. And I want you to think about this, and then I'm going to tell you something that's been going on the news to try to combat this stuff, okay? There are people out there fighting against this.
Right.
Here's what Trump tweeted. Such poor leadership ability by the mayor of San Juan and others in Puerto Rico who are not able to get their workers to help. Here's the phrase. They want everything to be done for them when it should be a community effort. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's terrible. The workers they couldn't drive, there were no roads open, and blah, blah, blah. It's
no communications, no electricity.
It's a dumb thing to say, It's a dumb thing to say.
But then he's dumb.
But that's not my point. That's not my point. Here's the dog whistle. These few words. They want everything to be done for them. That's what people who want to access white fears and white prejudices say as a dog whistle. Oh, they're lazy. They don't take care of themselves. They don't take, and this phrase, personal responsibility. I know I made a neighbor mad. In fact, he moved away. Because he gave me a sheet, and the first thing I saw, the heading, the 3 slogans, one of them was personal responsibility. And I said, oh, this is a Republican thing. Mm-hmm. Because personal responsibility is a code word, or a dog whistle, if you will, among people on the right, among Republicans, among conservatives, whatever you want to call it, to say, oh, if someone gets on welfare, if they need food stamps, if they can't afford medical insurance, if they're unemployed, they need unemployment compensation, they are not taking personal responsibility. Because if they did, they would be okay. Now, we can go back to Calvinistic religion, back in the Middle Ages or whatever. Obviously, we're not going to do that here. But there is a long history of this in the culture of our country. Now,
Trump also said, and that's what many whites use about African Americans, we're lazy, we don't take personal responsibility, we don't take care of ourselves, we don't take care of our kids. all of this. So Trump knew what he was saying when he said that. He was saying it about Puerto Rico and didn't expect to get the pushback that he is getting. But African Americans, we have heard we have to be twice as good. Barack Obama is a very good example. If a black man could never have been president of these United States with the history that Donald Trump has. Number one, he is one of the most ignorant people around, and he has access to, Ta-Nehisi Coates just said that, and he has access to blowing us all to smithereens. But that was all right, because Trump is white, okay? And that was fine. Barack Obama wouldn't have gotten to...
Well, I think, you know, the way I characterize it, the Obamas were very classy people.
Right.
It's like having the royal family in the White House.
Mm-hmm.
The Trumps are like having the Sopranos in the White House. That's the way I see it.
Good example.
All right? Now, what I want to do, Letha mentioned the pushback. MSNBC, oh yeah, that horribly left-wing, commie, socialistic network that distorts the news and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right. 4 minutes. Okay. They have taken to calling, they don't refer to the Puerto Ricans who are without food, and the Puerto Ricans who are without water, and the Puerto Ricans who are without power, and the Puerto Ricans who have impassable roads, and the Puerto Ricans who don't have access to hospitals. They say it's the Americans who don't have food, and the Americans who don't. You see the difference? Puerto Ricans, those little brown people that speak Spanish. Trump didn't even know that Puerto Rico is part of the United States.
Right.
Now here
and the
is
Virgin
what.
Islands.
Oh yeah, he said he talked to the president of the Virgin Islands, Nicole Wallace, on MSNBC, who is a Republican, had this look on her face.
She was still,
he is the president of the Virgin Islands.
Trump is the president of the Virgin Islands.
What was he doing? Talking to himself? Okay, at this point maybe he is. But I want my wife to say what she thinks will happen with the citizens, the American citizens of Puerto Rico. What are they going to do?
Well, I think they ought to all come to the mainland.
Because why? Once they get here,
they can vote.
They can vote. They can't vote in Puerto Rico, but they can vote once they get here.
Jennifer Lopez, all of you Puerto Ricans who have Pitbull,
yeah,
all of you all that have means to get a lot of the Puerto Ricans to the mainland, bring them.
What is that, Lin-Manuel, or the Hamilton guy?
Right.
A lot of very powerful Puerto Ricans.
Because you can
people
vote
with money
when you get here.
Yeah, if you're Puerto Rican, you can vote. You have to be in the United States, but the continental United States, but you can vote.
You can vote.
Okay, that was a little okay, not continental.
We just kind of got off.
Yeah.
How many minutes?
I want to.
2 minutes.
I want to wrap up. I got a ton of stuff here, and I'd like to continue next week with this because I got some good stuff here.
We do have some good stuff.
And I just want. How many minutes?
2.
Okay. Can I end with this white?
Yeah.
What is white? Here's what is white. Listen closely. I'm going to read fast. Which leads me to add one remark. That the number of purely white people in the world is proportional.
Too fast, they won't get it.
Okay. Well, we don't have time then.
You can slow down.
All right, I'll try. Which leads me to add one remark. That the number of purely white people in the world is proportionately very small. All Africa... Whew. All Africa is black or tawny. Asia is chiefly tawny. America, exclusive of the newcomers, wholly so. And in Europe, the Spaniards, Italians, French, Russians, and Swedes are generally what we call a swarthy complexion. As are the Germans also. The Saxons only excepted, who, with the English, make the principal body of white people on the face of the earth. I could wish their numbers were increased, and while we are, as I may call it, scouring our planet by clearing America of woods, and so making the side of our globe reflect a brighter light to the eyes of inhabitants in Mars or Venus, why should we, in the sight of superior beings, darken its people? Why increase the sons of Africa by planting them in America, where we have so fair an opportunity by excluding all blacks and tawnies of increasing the lovely white and red, but perhaps I am partial to the complexion of my country, for such kind of partiality is natural to mankind. That was not David Duke, that was Benjamin Franklin. Thank you.